Morning, guys. Thought I'd do a video this morning when I had my coffee on Sunday. I think I'm going to go to the gym in a bit. Just want to talk about social media today. No, make it bigger. Media. I'm seeing some interesting stuff out there, and it does make me wonder: are some of these people skipping round reality? Because people are talking about the cinemas in decline, but they're talking as if it's Hollywood has become too woke in the sense of interfering in day-to-day stuff. Um, I wouldn't say that's correct. I'd say, from my perspective, I can't remember the last time there was something worth watching. So let's not stroke their egos that they're fantastic as actors and whatever. Hollywood hasn't produced anything I've actually wanted to watch for a long time. And I think that's the viewpoint for a lot of people because it's expensive, but at the same time, if it's good enough, you'll pay anyway. That's one of the things I will say. So I don't think that's true. I think it's just that although they're all woke and weird, doesn't stop production of good stuff. The reality is they've allowed the industry to be flooded with propaganda. And I'm going to say propaganda because I'm separating it from DEI. I'm separating it from um, women's rights, human rights, whatever thing they decide is good this week. Because the reason a lot of people went to movies and watch TV shows and do what they do is escapism. Life is generally crap for most people. Um, and it's not that you're being negative. No. It's supposed to be crap. It's supposed to be hard. It's supposed to be difficult. You're going through the motions every day. So even if it's good, you've got to have bad days so that you know when the good days are. Because quite simply, otherwise it's just flat. Because if you don't have good and bad, you have boring. So I recognize it even myself. I like traveling, but I'm liking the airport less and less over the years because I'm traveling a lot more now than I did previously by plane. So I do a ridiculous amount of flights backwards and forwards to Spain. Um, I get through security quick. I have my routine, but at the same time, even with the efficiencies I put in, doesn't make it exciting. Doesn't make it interesting. The key for me is getting back to Spain, getting home. That's it. You know, the fun bits, I don't really record them anymore. That's how interesting it is, I find it. But with the movies were supposed to be a bit of a grandstand, a bit of getting away from the nonsense, from the working week, even on a Wednesday or whatever, the midweek cinema stuff. For me, the cost was never an issue. I don't mind paying £20 to go and see a movie. I've got to admit the snacks are excessive, but it's all part and parcel with the decline of the industry because Hollywood hasn't been producing stuff worth watching. I don't think enough people are talking about that piece. It's just the stuff they're producing is garbage. Now we're on to the next piece, which is let's start with the Netflix. Netflix, I find, is a propaganda machine, and I think it's starting to eat itself. Um, because you find it very hard to find something to watch on Netflix. Then Disney went down the same path, and Apple's down the same path. So you've got these subscription greed orientated industries telling you what you should watch and what you should think because they're putting it into the shows. So it's like me. I've got no problem with gay people, lesbian people, black people, whatever. But why didn't they squeeze everything into every show as if it's normal? Well, it is normal because no, it's not normal. It's not normal. See, if I was living in a remote Scottish fishing village, why would I expect it to be a multicultural environment? And that's an old one. You could take that from Balamory. Balamory was even down that path. Um, but my family is Scottish. I don't see many foreigners, full stop. Should we call them Scottish the way the English do? Yeah, I don't see many Scottish in the sense of bloodlines. Mainly they're Scottish in Scotland. And people would call me a Scottish jock because I don't sound like a Scot, and I spent most of my time overseas, and my family were military, so I travelled around a lot. So I don't get accepted. But you know what? There's no tears in my eyes. I'm not standing shouting white, white, white in Parliament as an immigrant. I'm actually turning around and say, well, stick it then. I don't care. I don't care. Because there's more to life. But the reason I bring it up is they ram all this garbage into stuff. So even when you get a good storyline going along, I mean, Pirates was a good. Is it called Pirates? I think it's Pirates, where they suddenly become gay halfway through it, and you're suddenly going, "What the is this crap? What's this based on?" And you suddenly, yet again, political, and they do it all the time. And it gets to the point where you don't want to watch it because there's going to be some stupid twist to it that had no reason to be there and it's been written in on purpose. See, it's like, I think they're on about messing around with the Jack Sparrow piece. My view is, here's a shocker. Pirates come from everywhere. They don't all need to be the lead character. And the bigger picture here is there's enough people whinging that Lion King come from Africa instead of it being celebrated as an African folk story. And before you turn around and start whinging at me about that type of stuff, going, oh yeah, but Disney's made this and this. Disney stole most of its stories from Europe. Don't you worry. We had enough of our own stuff stolen, thank you. So I think we've got to this point because it's a bit like SaaS, software as a service. The streaming services are becoming redundant because they don't give money for value, they don't give you long-term ownership, and you've got the same with Steam, you've got the same, for gaming. I'll show you what. I've done something that a little bit retro, but I think more people are doing the same because I started collecting vinyl. Again, I'm not even going to go into where my old vinyl went because it just annoy me and it relates to some family members. But this is my CDs. This is the CDs in the last 2 weeks. Because see, the thing is, I remember when the MP3s come in. MP3s were a good idea because the MP3s, you didn't always need to condense everything because you get the condensed sound. So the CD versions, the vinyl versions, can often sound better. This is leaning back in it by itself. I thought it was me. I thought every time I look, and I'm getting further and further away. But on a bit of a positive note, I'll give you a mix of what I actually listen to. Then I'll go over why. So there you go. That's the Chemical Brotherhood, Depeche Mode, Botticelli, That's Scott Stamp, which is Creed. I buy his stuff basically because I met him in at a concert in Manila. Yeah, because we got VIP tickets because I was coming in from the Middle East. But yeah, met the band because I hadn't heard of Creed before then. To be fair, Viagra Boys, bit of an acquired taste those, by the way. The Hives, and they even where is it? Put it in there. Yeah. So even paid the extra. Get signed by the band. So that's their latest album. And bizarrely, I've got it on vinyl as well. I did say before I like music. There's the Viagra Boys again. They seem to do their own cover stuff. Oh, that's Depeche Mode out there. The other box. Bit of Ozzy Osbourne. Prodigy. Bryan Adams for the ladies. And David Bowie. Now the other thing is, this one's a bit rattling because it was cracked. I'm buying. Can you hear it? A bit of plastic rattling around. I'll try to shake most of them out so they don't scratch. But like that, bought it second hand for £5. Now I own it, so I drop dead. My kids inherit everything I've got. Music collection they don't want. No, my point being is, when an MP3 and that come in, it was a new thing because it was a little device. It was practical because you could get all your stuff, yeah, the iPod and all that sort of lovely stuff. So you could get all your music in one space, and it worked well with the iMac, and you could you could share music easily with your mates. Instead of the old days where you used to have the old tape recorder, it'd be the top 40, and you get there and press play and record at the same time so you could record the radio. That's the old days. But the point being is the MP3, it's a bit like if you're into piracy in a big way. The problem with piracy in a big way is you have everything at your fingertips, so you don't see anything. It's the wood for the trees, because once you got too much, you don't look at any of it. You browse, you got too much in front of you. And I wouldn't say Netflix now, they're in that realm. I think the stuff they're producing is garbage. I think it's political. I think it's regurgitated across multiple networks. They're all doing exactly the same, and you can't get full series on some stuff. I was watching Monk actually, and I put Monk on because there's that little to watch. Cause I don't even find Monk that good. I just put it on in the background. But he's going, oh yeah, you can start it. I think it was series 5 or something. And it's like, oh, where's the other 4? So my point being is, they're deciding what you're watching. Can't even give you it as a complete series. It's often propaganda or very weak storylines. So it's almost like clown show stuff. Because if you look at going back 80s, 70s, 80s, yeah, probably 80s. Because a lot of this stuff started changing. Because when you used to have, like, say, Clint Eastwood type movies, which would be the 80s, they were a lot more raw, a lot more story orientated, a lot more alpha type male, masculine. And it followed a line where a lot of people watched it. Now, it doesn't mean that, masculinity, toxic masculinity. It was a time period, and the relevance I chose Clint Eastwood is he's carried on through the years, and you can see his storyline changed himself, because if you look at what's that? Is it Gran Torino? We're related to the the Koreans that he's a neighbour with, and he's got that hardline stance that helps the Korean kids. But even if it's a political one, it had a decent storyline. It's actually been thought out. But I haven't really watched any of his more recent stuff because he did one about wildlife or something, and a lot of people canned it, so I haven't even seen that one. But the point being is, you could even see his stuff transitioning, and the quality sort of didn't maintain. I mean, God knows how old he is anyway now. I mean, he always looks old. He's like me, always looks old. But quality, his quality is there, but I think over time, the interest has changed. Now, in the recent years, I think we're missing an opportunity for stuff that people actually want to watch. And I do get the drive on the DEI stuff, right? The DEI push, push, push. And I've got to admit, my issue with it is when you changed equality to equity, you removed the best person. Because the best person is non-definitive. It does not describe somebody in a wheelchair, colour, religion, whatever. It's the best person. You create an environment where you're trying to give jobs to other people because it suits a political agenda. And I'm not interested in hearing the nonsense behind it all because, quite simply, I'm tired of it. Really am. It's a bit like the Trump visas now, where they're talking about 100,000 for bringing people into America from India, which is, I think India is 70% of those visas. You shouldn't need the visas. Because when it was originally set up, it was for high skilled individuals that the country doesn't have, but just got abused. Corporations just raided it. Because you can pay somebody from India or Pakistan or whatever probably about 30-40% less, and they're happy with that. In fact, they worry about their job all the time because they're risk of losing their job, so they work harder. They'll put the extra hours in, the extra effort in. But does anybody want to work in that environment where your job is always a threat? The answer to that's no. And the whole COVID situation made a lot of people wake up thinking, you know what, I hate my job. I'm not going back. Or, I hate my job. I'm going to go part-time because I've just realised I can live on a lot less. Because as soon as I'm not going into London every day, I'm saving, I don't know, £200 a week in train fare or whatever. So, yeah, I'll have a third back on my salary. Well, yeah, I'm going to move out of London. I don't like it anymore anyway. It only takes a little thing to change the whole dynamic. That visa change in America, there'll be lots of people whinging about it, and then you'll suddenly see something shift. And the reason I bring it up, it's all related. It's all related. Right, so yeah, so the software piracy is too much, right? Too much of everything. So that you can't actually focus in on the bits and pieces you actually like. That's one thing. Streaming did that. Streaming where you pay £5 a month, which is now £8 or £15 a month, free money, destroyed a lot of that. And the reason it'll expand out as we go forward. So the point is, everything becomes narrow because they're then marketing like a machine, robotic, systematic, financially orientated, which is why things like Beyonce are just mechanical noise. It's just a rhythm of sound that lacks lyrical information. I don't know what to do. I just find it pointless. Um, it's all teeth. It's all teeth and fat butt and repetitive lyrics. It's a machine. Now, if you go back to the times of probably the new wave, isn't it? I may be in the wrong genre, may have wrong time period, but I'm looking at the fact that vinyl could be produced very cheap in the UK. That's why things like the Sex Pistols and that took off because they could produce it much cheaper at that point. So the reality is, you end up with a broad spectrum of sound, a broad selection of people. It's where you get your musicians that you either hate or love because the music's so broad. You get your new orders and all sorts of music going on. Some of it is just disgustingly crap, and other stuff is just unique and legendary. But the good thing is, when you have to buy things, you spend a bit more time thinking about it. You listen to it, you think about it, you weigh it up and think, yeah, I'm going to buy that. So you end up with a selection of good stuff. Because I bet you, even with, I'm going to say it's quietly, Alexa, because she's listening, or the Google one, or whatever, look at how much music you're actually listening to. It's probably not much bigger than that, and you're paying a monthly subscription for it. Just a thought. So for me, I think the CDs are important. I think DVDs are important. I think the removing the corporate parasitical control from corporations is important. Not overall, I'm not becoming a socialist today or ever. But what I mean is, if Joe Bloggs in his back garage with his garage band produces music that I can hear and get hold of and I like it and I can order his CD online, I will do. This is why, like the Hives, I go into their website. The same as the Viagra Boys, I think, do their stuff as well. Funny enough, they're both Swedish bands. But my point being is, that's what broadens the music. Because you're probably thinking it's gone like that. It's just getting so narrow and boring. I want to broaden that out. And the easiest way of doing that is being able to let people produce their own stuff and put it out there and see if people take an interest. This is why Top of the Pops used to be such a big thing and people used to manipulate it because they knew which record shops they had to have the purchases on, so they knew which record shops they're going to buy their own records from because once it's on Top of the Pops, it creates a nationwide sound of your music and then other people buy it. I think what's missing for this type of stuff is more of a platform for it and actually encouraging people to buy the CDs and DVDs. Now, I look back to, was it Game that was having this problem? I think it was Game, we were on about computer games now, where they were trying to say you borrow this, right? You borrow music, you borrow the game. We own that game. So though you bought it and have a physical copy in its little container, you can't sell it. I completely disagree. It's one of the reasons I liked, or well, I still agree with piracy for some stuff. For example, Adobe's a rip-off, and if you're a student and trying to learn it, I think it's overpriced. I also think the fact that a lot of these, once you stop subscribing, it stops working, is extortion. That's my personal viewpoint. So hence, I like these types of things. I like the physical products. I've gone back to physical products. And I think more people are. And like I said, it's the same with DVDs. Because the DVDs, for watching movies and stuff, you can select a stack of good ones. And you can swap them. You can borrow. You can, it's actually injecting this thing. This is going to shock you. This is the new term. When you swap it and share it, and you borrow someone else's CD, and they borrow a movie from you, and you, social media. Social media in the real sense. Community orientated social media. Because you lend somebody your DVD, you lend somebody your latest movie, and I think musicians get more money out of these than they do out of Sony, EMI, etc. It's like Steam, Cartel. I think it's about time a lot of this stuff just went. I don't think they had any value. They're actually manipulating stuff to suit their own storylines. And now we're on to the other bit, which we just touched on with the CDs, the fact that people can produce their CDs in the garages because you can buy a burner quite cheap. But the same goes for a lot of people are watching people like me. Not as much me because I don't get much subscribers these days. Cause I think because I'm not travelling around as much, and you don't really want to know what to do for a day job. It's boring. But a lot of the stuff is like your YouTube type stuff. We're missing a trick here. There's an opportunity to go back to the heyday of the arrival of the VHS and Betamax, which is more low cost production stuff, where people actually make stuff themselves and market it and sell it. And you probably think, Matt, this isn't the 80s or 90s. Yeah, I know. But what I'm saying is, everything we're dealing with is homed in on control. I'm looking like a bit of a guru type person doing that. I shouldn't do that, with my bald head and. But the point being is, I noticed this in the Philippines, and it's good when you're in other countries where you can recognise what control looks like, because a lot of stuff we face is subtle, and they recognise that people will move against it if they can see it coming. But why is the pork produced predominantly in places like Thailand for the Philippines? What about rice? Why is the Philippines importing rice? Why is it? What about pesticides and other stuff you need for farming? All these hardcore elements you need for existence. Your raw survival stuff. Because if you can control the ports, you control the people, because you're controlling the prices. You're controlling what goes through the country. You're controlling everything, because cars go through there, electronics go through there, parts go through there. It's riddled with corruption. The Philippines used to be the biggest producer of rice, I believe. I was told that by a professor in the Philippines, because he actually went to Thailand a long time ago to teach them how to produce rice. Very, very knowledgeable guy, by the way. I don't know if he's still alive now. He'd be at least 90 now. But the reality is, it's about control. This box here, this is the port. This is your subscription services. This is your Steam. This is your Netflix, this is your Alexa, this is your Amazon store, it's control. Alexa actually whispered at me there. That's what it's about. But these things sits outside that. So when people are talking about people are going back to more vinyl, CDs, and they're putting a lot of emphasis on the compression that goes into digital sounds. The bigger picture is you own it, you control it, and if you're producing it and get a platform going, you own it, you control it, you price it, and all those people that live off everybody else's backs don't make a cent. And no, I'm not socialist. I'm just saying, I don't like subscription services. If they're good value, yeah, I get it. But in reality, why do I want to pay the equivalent of second-hand Prodigy CD, about £5, including the postage? The subscription service for the music is more than that. So that's 12. If I bought one a month, that's 12 CDs a year. But look how long you've had your subscription services. It's the same with software. If you can get software that is not in the cloud, controlled by others, software as a service, all that sort of stuff, because they'll go, ooh, yeah, but what about security? Don't care. If I'm that bothered about it, I'll set it up on a virtual machine, but generally don't care. Oh yeah, but cyber people could use it. Ooh, scary. I don't care. I really don't care. Do you know, for me, I work in a very simple world. Don't stick your bank cards and details on something that could be stolen. The only stuff I've had stolen from me has been breaches caused by others, and they don't admit it. It's a bit like when they suddenly say, "Oh, somebody's got hold of your password. You need to change it," as if you did it, and then 2 years later, you see that, I don't know, say LinkedIn had a password breach. You didn't lose your password. They lost millions of them. So the point being is, even with that stuff, somebody stole my music collection, they'd have to break in and steal it physically. And yes, it does take up more space, but I will add, the good thing about having this is you get the little books to go and read in the covers. You get nice graphics in them, and you can give one to someone else. Yeah. So that's my view on that. And the other thing is, you can't be cultivated in thinking, because if you're selecting your music and whatever that you enjoy, you are taking the ownership of it. So you pick what you like. It's not being driven by marketing, it's not driven by politics, it's driven by what you like. So as you probably recognise, Chemical Brothers and The Prodigy may not be everybody's cup of tea, but I like listening to them in the car, because from my younger days when I had air. Bryan Adams is for April, it's not for me. David Bowie I never really listened to much before, and it was quite funny listening to that album, because I suddenly realised there must be at least 30 songs on there. Well, it can't be that many, surely. Let's say 15 songs. Some of them I didn't even realise he'd done. But this is the good thing about, you don't need to just narrow your view on it, because one of the things I've started doing is actually listening to artists I didn't listen to before, because it's a bit like, I love Nirvana, but I've sort of discovered more lately Mazzy Star. Yeah, and you're jumping into the music environment rather than being told what to listen to. Or the ones, oh, we recommend this. No, how about I'll recommend it? Or I listen to a YouTube channel that actually talks about music. And then we just hit another nerve there, haven't we? Oh, you have to pay to listen to our music because it's owned by Sony. It's owned by this. You own that. Hmm. It's almost like they're trying to sew up the entire industry for themselves. I have an evil plan. Was there anything else I wanted to add to that though? Yeah, books. They want you in digital books, but I'll be honest with you. I've got 6 in my bag I haven't even took out yet. That I bought when I went back to Spain because some good books on the way at the airport. I've got 3 there, about 20 there. The good thing about books, I know they're quite pricey these days, I get it, but I think Amazon's just had a thing with their Kindle and stuff, haven't they, about the ownership on the information and also their movies. You know, where you buy was it Amazon Prime where you buy a movie on the Prime? You know, where it goes, oh, a little label, buy this, and then, but they're actually licensed. So if they cancel the license or lose the license, you lose your product. So even if it's your favourite movie, you can lose it. Books, I'm not books. I think they were trying to make out that you're borrowing it. It's not that. It's not yours. But guys, the amount we're paying for this stuff, you might as well just buy the bloody book. And the good thing about the book is you can lend it to other people. So, funny enough, I was talking to somebody on Friday about a couple of books. Um, Eat That Frog by Brian Tracy. Um, Rich Dad Poor Dad, because we were talking about the reason we dropped onto it was to do with something that was a pain, and I was saying how you do that first because otherwise you'll just keep putting it off and putting it off. And they mentioned Eat That Frog, and I said, yeah, Brian Tracy, and then he went and double checked because he was surprised I knew that I remember what the author was. But like that, once you've sort of evolved yourself, you may actually want to pass that on to someone else. And I say evolve because it's not about, it's not so cut and dry. But the point being, with the Brian Tracy book, it's quite, it talks about dealing with your worst problems first. That's why it's Eat That Frog, because obviously he was thinking about something that was disgusting to do, which is deal with the worst problems first. And it's a very, very good book. Same as Rich Dad Poor Dad. And people whinge about the way he's unethical as an individual, on the way he will loan against businesses and buildings and stuff, and you go, oh, he's been bankrupt multiple times and all this. And it's like, you obviously didn't understand the book, because the whole book is 2 different mindsets. That's why it's Rich Dad Poor Dad, because his father was academic and his friend's father was a business person. And if you understand the 2 different things, you could be moral and poor, or business and rich. And it's sort of in and out of that a little bit. It's not as cut and dry as a lot of people, but it covers the line of understanding that when he was talking about, I think it was his father was, his friend's father was on about wages, and you could see that he was sort of saying, hang on, you think I don't pay people enough? And then his response was, well, if I didn't pay them enough, they wouldn't work. They'll work at that rate, otherwise they just wouldn't show up. Now, from the academic side, they would actually turn around and say, well, you're just abusing people, blah, blah, blah. Business, be academic. And that's the whole sort of rhythm of the book, in my opinion, anyway. But the point being is, I have given that book away before. And I've given a few books away. I'm not giving away as much as I used to, because I spend a lot of money on them. But when I've had some friends that are in difficult times or whatever, I've given away books just to give them a new direction and a bit of purpose, because there's plenty of that stuff out there if you're struggling with stuff. But in the same way, what's on my desk? I'm going to do this without this falling over. Okay. So these are the ones from this month, actually. This is coming into Spain. So this is Resilience, which is 10 habits to thrive in life and work. You probably see a lot of the stuff I do is around development and psychology and stuff like that. It's just because I work all the time, and a lot of the stuff I deal with is personalities, because some of these people can be quite difficult individuals. So you've got to try and work out how you deal with them, because some of them can be an absolute nightmare sometimes. This one is the Culture Code, which is the secrets of highly successful groups. This one is the Business Model book, Design, Build and Adapt Business Ideas That Thrive, because I'm looking at my MBA coming up soon, and I'm absorbing stuff from a different perspective and direction. Because one of the key things I'll say about myself, which I work hard on, to be fair, is seeing things from other people's perspectives. Now, it doesn't always go well, in the sense of, I've got some people talking about the Charlie Kirk stuff at the minute, and all this cancel culture stuff that's gone on, where people are getting fired and whatever. But then I've got people saying that, oh, yeah, everyone's far right. Look, all these people have turned up for the Tommy Robbins. Oh, and at the same time, they want me to engage with them. I've lost interest. There's a sort of theory out there that you need to engage with people to educate, etc. But some of these people are too far gone. It's sad, you know. I never, I don't know how somebody could celebrate the death of anybody. I really can't. I mean, I can get it. I get it if you were talking about somebody who did harm to others, in the sense of, say, a serial killer or something like that, because it may be closure and ending. The person has nothing of value to offer. I get that, but even that, I would assess it on the value of, are they better to be analysed by people that could use them to stop other people doing the same? You know, because I think that's when they started working with Russia, Europe, and started combining all their security agencies, because they could get into what Russia gets up to. And that was a big thing, because Russia doesn't have the same rights as the UK, for example. So they don't treat these people, oh, he's a vulnerable person, oh, he's just murdered 5 families, all that sort of stuff. It's more a case of, yeah, we've done stuff to him. Yeah, you can come in and look at our research and whatever, because he ain't going nowhere. So I look at some of the stuff that went on out there, and I sat there and thought, I don't even want to engage with these people anymore. I really don't. There's no logic in there. They treat everybody who doesn't agree with them as far right or right wing. And funny enough, I had this conversation on Friday, and a friend of mine, the penny dropped with him, because he thought his views were getting more extreme or whatever. I said, no, you're still where you were. The left have just gone so far. You haven't moved. These people have. And he thought about it and thought, you're right. That's actually true. Yeah, I haven't moved. See, being patriotic was normal, which is true. You know, when you used to, I mean, at the cinema, they used to play the national anthem at the beginning. The TV at the end of the night, the national anthem would come on, which would tell people to go to bed that nodded off an hour earlier. There was a sense of being, a sense of being part of something, a sense of ownership. These people detest that. They detest it. And the stupidity in it is, if everybody's an individual, then no one's an individual. What do I mean? Well, it's a bit like the barbers, where you see the barber with the big beard, the man bun, and it's a gentleman's barber. And you're probably already thinking, yeah, I've got one of those. There you go. Because they all think they're individuals and something special. But they're not. Because by default, they've created their own culture or group. So their individualism is false. It's in here. But you could get a convention with 100 of these people with their little beards on and their man buns, and they're all following the same path and thinking they're individuals. Bizarre. So for me, yeah, I've got a sense of patriotism towards the UK. I didn't even say England. I'm not English. As I said earlier, I'm Scottish. And I always see the divide in Scotland, where there's a lot of people that hate the English still, and you're like, come on. Didn't see you at the Battle of Bannockburn. Oh, you weren't alive then? Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of chip on the shoulder, false mentality out there. And I bring it up because, quite simply, being able to switch off through books, through DVDs, through CDs, you're not inviting it into your home. You're disconnected from it all. And there's another book I've got, which isn't here, it's in Spain. It's something news, I can't remember the title. But the whole point was, I believe it was a journalist that wrote it for, it might be in the Times. But the whole point is, they realised, just ignore the news, don't waste your time on it. If it's important, people will tell you about it. But quite simply, there's more important things to life, and you don't need to follow the news, you don't have to spend any time on it, because other people will fill the gap, and most of the time what they're doing is propaganda, manipulated, and shouldn't impact your life unless you let it. But anyway, I'll finish on that today, guys. This is a little bit of a different video today, rather than a it's an update. Alright, take it easy.